My mom always blamed me for dad leaving when I was just 8. But years later, I found out she lied to everyone, even my brother, and the truth destroyed everything we thought we knew about our family. You never forget the moment your world shifts. I was only 8 years old when my father walked out the front door and never came back. No goodbye, no explanation, just the sound of the door closing, and the silence that followed. And in that silence, my mother looked down at me, her eyes glassy and red from crying, and said the words that would haunt me for the rest of my life. If you hadn't screamed at him like that, maybe he would have stayed. At first, I didn't understand. I was just a kid. I had thrown a tantrum the night before, sure, but I was 8. I wanted my dad to help with my science fair project and he brushed me off. I got upset and said I hated him. The next morning, he was gone. And to my mother, that tantrum wasn't just a bad moment, it was the reason he left. She said it again a week later, louder this time, when I asked if we could call him. Why would he want to talk to the kid who drove him away? And just like that, guilt sank in and settled deep into my chest. Like a stone. My older brother, Julian, who was 13 at the time, didn't say much. He was quieter than me, more mature. I always assumed he believed her too. He never told me it wasn't my fault. He never defended me. So I carried that blame alone for years. Our home after dad left was a cold one. Mom was never the warmest person to begin with, but after the divorce, she became something else entirely. Distant. Harsh. Sometimes it felt like she was punishing me just by existing in the same house. She worked long hours and left us with boxed dinners and a long list of chores. Anytime I did something wrong, even minor stuff like forgetting to take out the trash, she'd make a comment like, "No wonder he left," or "just like your father." It was like every mistake I made confirmed what she already believed, that I was the problem. Julian tried to play the peacemaker. He did well in school, kept his head down, and helped me with homework when mom wasn't around. But he never stood up to her, never said, it wasn't her fault. And I hated him a little for that. When I turned 13, I started to understand more. Not just about dad leaving, but about how broken our family really was. I saw how my mom snapped at waiters, how she scowled at happy couples in the grocery store. She hated love. She hated men. But most of all, I think she hated herself, and she took it out on me. That same year, I found a showbox under her bed filled with old photographs, pictures of her and dad smiling, holding each other, even a few of us at Disneyland. They looked happy. Like a real family. That night I asked her, quietly, what had really happened. She turned the TV volume up and said, "You know exactly what happened. Don't pretend like you don't." So I stopped asking. I buried it deep and tried to move on. High school wasn't easy. I had trouble trusting people. I kept most friends at a distance and didn't tell anyone what home was like. Julian left for college when I was a sophomore, and without him around, the house felt emptier than ever. I resented him for leaving. He'd always been the golden child, smart, dependable, obedient. He got a scholarship and made mom proud. Meanwhile, I struggled with anxiety, skipped classes, and kept messing up. And each time I failed, her words echoed in my head like a curse. "You're the reason he left." The thing is, I believed it. For a long time, I truly believed that I broke my family. That I was born with something in me that pushed people away. That if I had just stayed quiet, just been a better daughter, maybe he would have stayed. Maybe we'd still be a family. But deep down, something never quite added up. The way my mom refused to talk about him. The way she flinched when I brought up good memories. The way she snapped at Julian whenever he mentioned trying to reconnect with dad. It felt like she was hiding something. Like there was more to the story. I didn't realize how deep the lie went until I turned 21. That's when everything started to unravel, slowly at first, and then all at once. But before I get to that, I need you to understand one thing. Guilt shapes a person. When you grow up thinking you're the reason your family fell apart, it changes how you see yourself. It changes how you love, how you trust, how you breathe. I spent my entire childhood trying to earn my mother's love back. Trying to prove I was worthy of forgiveness. I didn't know that what I really needed wasn't her forgiveness. It was the truth. And the truth was so much darker and so much more heartbreaking than I ever could have imagined. By the time I turned 21, I had moved out. Not far, just a small apartment on the edge of town with peeling paint and a leaky faucet, but it was mine. And more importantly, it wasn't hers. The distance from my mother gave me space to breathe for the first time in my life. Julian, now 26, had moved to Chicago after college for work. He'd become some kind of data analyst at a finance firm, always sounded tired on the phone. We weren't particularly close anymore, but we checked in here and there. Birthdays, holidays, the occasional text. I still avoided asking about Dad. The topic had been scorched out of our conversations a long time ago. But something had changed in me. The older I got, the more I questioned the story I'd been told. And not just questioned it, obsessed over it. I began doing the thing I told myself I'd never do. I started searching. It began innocently, Googling his name late at night while eating cereal straight from the box. David L. Morgan. Common enough. Too common, really. But I remembered his middle name, Leonard, and that he'd once worked at a local car dealership. That helped narrow things down. Eventually, after a few weeks of scrolling, I found a small profile on LinkedIn. David Leonard Morgan, sales consultant, living in upstate New York. And there it was, a grainy profile photo of a man in his 50s with the same jawline as Julian, the same tired eyes as me. My heart stopped. For a moment, I just stared at the screen, not knowing whether to cry or scream. This man, who I hadn't seen since I was 8, was still out there. Living his life. Smiling. Existing. And then came the wave of emotions. Anger, confusion, curiosity. How could he have just vanished? How could he have left me behind and never tried to find me? I didn't message him. Not then. Instead, I took a screenshot and sent it to Julian with a single text. Is this him? It took him hours to reply. But when he did, it was only one word. Yeah. I stared at his answer for a long time before typing. Did you know where he was this whole time? His response came quickly. Not exactly. I looked a few times. Gave up. I didn't think it'd help anything. I wanted to scream at him. How could he give up? How could he not care? But deep down, I knew Julian wasn't the enemy here. We'd both been raised under the same cold roof, fed the same bitter stories. I debated for days before finally deciding to do something I never thought I'd do. I wrote my dad a letter. Nothing dramatic. Just a simple note. Dear Dad, I don't know if you remember me. My name is Emily. I was 8 the last time we saw each other. I found your profile and I just want to know why. Why did you leave? I need to know the truth. Emily. I printed it, folded it carefully, and mailed it to the address listed on his page. Weeks passed. No response. I told myself not to expect anything. That maybe he moved. That maybe he didn't want to talk. That maybe Mom was right all along. Maybe I was the reason he disappeared. Then, one Thursday afternoon, as I was sorting through bills and junk mail, I found an envelope addressed to me in handwriting I didn't recognize. I froze. My fingers trembled as I opened it. The letter inside was short, but it changed everything. Dear Emily, I've thought about this day for 20 years. You have no idea how much I've wanted to hear from you. I didn't leave because of you. I never would have left you. Your mother told me to stay away. She made sure I couldn't come back. I would like to explain, if you'll let me. Please call me. That last sentence nearly knocked the air out of my lungs. Your mother told me to stay away. The ground beneath everything I believed started to crack. All those years of guilt, of shame, of feeling unwanted and broken and lost. Had it all been a lie? Had my mother deliberately turned me against him? I immediately called Julian. My voice was shaking. I got a letter. He was silent for a beat. From who? Dad. I heard him inhale sharply. What did it say? I read it to him, word for word. There was a long pause. Then he said, I always thought something didn't add up. But I didn't want to dig. I didn't want to know. I couldn't handle knowing. I didn't blame him, but I couldn't stop now. The truth was finally within reach, and I wasn't going to let it slip through my fingers. The next day, I called the number he'd written at the bottom of the page. It rang 3 times before someone picked up. Hello? It was him. His voice was older, rougher than I remembered, but still undeniably his. I couldn't speak at first. I just cried. And then, between sniffles, I said, "It's Emily." He didn't say anything. I heard his breath catch. "Is it really you?" he whispered. "Yes." And for a moment, we both just cried. Two strangers, bound by blood and a fractured past, finally finding each other in the rubble. "I never stopped loving you," he said. And that was when I knew I had been lied to, manipulated, used. But the worst part? Julian didn't know either. Mom hadn't just lied to me. She lied to both of us. And it was time to find out why. The next few days after speaking to my dad were a blur. Everything felt heavier. Even the air. I replayed that call in my head 100 times. His voice, the way it cracked when he said my name, the silence that wrapped around us when the truth started slipping out. The truth she had buried for 2 decades. I wanted answers. I needed them. But a part of me was terrified too. Because if my mom had lied about this, if she had blamed me for something I didn't do, and made me carry that weight for most of my life, then who even was she? I didn't go to her house right away. I went to Julian. I hadn't seen him in over a year. He drove in from Chicago the following weekend after I told him everything. We met at our old high school parking lot, neutral ground. It was weird seeing him in person. He looked older, more tired. We hugged, but it felt awkward. Distant. "You okay?" he asked, sliding his sunglasses up onto his head. "No, not even close," I said. We sat in his car for a long time, not saying much. Just staring at the school building where we both spent our teenage years pretending everything was fine. Finally, Julian said, "Do you believe him?" I looked at him. "Do you?" He didn't answer. "I called him," I added. "He told me Mom made him leave. That she said he couldn't see us anymore." Julian rubbed the back of his neck. "But why would she do that?" "She loved him." I remember. Before the fights, they were happy. "People don't erase someone out of their life without a reason," I said. "Maybe she found out something. Maybe he cheated." Julian shook his head. He didn't. I remember. The night before he left, they argued in the kitchen. I listened through the door. She was screaming at him to get out. She said he was corrupting us, whatever that meant. He kept saying, "They're my kids too. You can't do this." I blinked. "You never told me that." He looked ashamed. I was scared. I didn't know what it meant. "And after he left, she told me what she told you, that it was your fault." I froze. "She blamed me too?" I whispered. Julian's jaw clenched. "Not directly, but she made it clear. Your sister pushed him too far. Your sister ruined this family." I think I started believing it just to make it easier. If you were the reason, then I didn't have to question her. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about me. It wasn't even just about our dad. Our entire childhood had been shaped by a narrative our mother created, one carefully designed to make her the victim, and us the cause of her suffering. We sat in silence, the gravity of it all pressing down on us like 1,000 bricks. "Are you ready to talk to her?" I asked Julian. "No," he said. "But we need to." We went to her house that evening. It was the same worn-down place we'd grown up in. Same crooked mailbox. Same dead patch of grass in the front yard. Same heavy feeling as we walked up the steps. Mom opened the door and looked surprised to see both of us. She was wearing her old gray sweater, the one she used to live in during the winters. "Well," she said, "look who finally showed up." "Can we come in?" Julian asked. She stepped aside without a word. The living room hadn't changed. Same faded couches. Same framed photos, except none of Dad. We sat down, and for a while, none of us said anything. Then I pulled out the letter. Her eyes narrowed the second she saw the handwriting. "Where did you get that?" "I wrote him," I said quietly. "And he wrote me back." Her face went pale. "You had no right." I had every right, I snapped, surprising even myself. You've been lying to us for 20 years. She crossed her arms, defensive. What did he say? Julian leaned forward. He said you made him leave. That you told him he wasn't allowed to see us anymore. She didn't deny it. Not immediately. Instead, she looked down at her hands. You don't understand what he did. What did he do? I asked. My voice was shaking. She looked up, her eyes burning. He wanted full custody. After the divorce, he filed papers to take you both away from me. Julian and I both froze. What? He whispered. He was going to move to New York, start a new life. Said I was unstable, unfit, that the kids would be better off with him, she said bitterly. I panicked. I had just lost my marriage, and then I was going to lose my kids too. So you, what? Made him the villain before he could fight you in court? I asked. I made a deal, she admitted. I told him I wouldn't press charges for something he didn't do if he agreed to leave and stay gone. It was the only way to keep you. Julian's voice was tight. You blackmailed him? Her eyes flashed. I protected you. No, I said, rising to my feet. You manipulated us. You let me believe for years that I was the reason he left. You punished me for something that was never my fault. I had to make you hate him, she shouted. If you loved him, you would have left me too. You would have wanted to be with him. I couldn't survive that. I stared at her. The woman I had feared, pitied, and obeyed my whole life. And now all I saw was a scared, broken person who couldn't let go of her own pain, so she made us carry it for her. Julian stood too. You could have told the truth. He would have taken you from me, she whispered. You were all I had. And in that moment, something in me cracked open. Not in anger, but in realization. She hadn't just lied to us out of malice. She lied because she was terrified of being left alone. But that didn't make it okay. You had us, I said. We were right here. And you still chose to make us suffer. She didn't answer. Her face collapsed into itself, like she was folding under the weight of it all. Julian turned to me. Let's go. And we did. We walked out of that house, not just leaving the front door, but leaving behind the story we'd been forced to live in. The truth was painful. But for the first time, it was ours. Julian and I didn't talk much on the way back. There was nothing left to say, at least not in that moment. The silence between us wasn't heavy anymore. It wasn't filled with blame or confusion or years of unresolved pain. It was calm, like the quiet after a storm. That night, I sat on my apartment floor, knees hugged to my chest, the letter from Dad still open beside me. I kept rereading the last line. Please call me. But I had already done that. What now? Was I supposed to meet him? Was I ready for that? I didn't know. All I knew was that I couldn't move forward carrying the weight of what she had done. I needed to know him, not just the version from memories or letters or calls, but the man he had become. So the next morning, I packed a small bag, got in my car, and started driving north. It was a 6-hour drive to where he lived in upstate New York. The road stretched endlessly ahead, the summer sun pouring through the windshield as the trees blurred past. I didn't tell anyone I was going, not even Julian. Some journeys you have to take alone. When I pulled into the driveway of a modest 2-story house nestled on the edge of a wooded neighborhood, my heart pounded so hard I could barely breathe. I sat in the car for a full 10 minutes, staring at the front door, willing myself to move. And then, it opened. He stepped out onto the porch slowly, cautiously, like he wasn't sure if he was dreaming. His hair was grayer than the photo, his face lined with time and sadness. But his eyes were still the same. He gave me a hesitant smile. Emily? I opened the car door. My legs were shaking. Hi, I said, my voice cracking. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then he stepped off the porch and walked toward me, slow and careful, like approaching a deer that might bolt. When we were just a few feet apart, I whispered, You really didn't leave because of me? He looked like he'd been waiting 20 years to answer that question. No, he said softly. Never because of you. I loved you so much it hurt. I still do. And then I was crying again. But this time, Not from sadness, from release, from the feeling of being seen and loved and wanted. He opened his arms. I stepped into them, and for the first time in 2 decades, I felt like a daughter. Ah. The next few hours passed in a strange mix of conversation, silence, and cautious laughter. We sat on the back porch, the scent of pine trees in the air, birds chirping in the distance. He brought out photo albums. Pictures I had never seen, me as a baby in his arms, Julian at the beach, family Christmases before everything fell apart. Your mom mailed these back to me after the divorce, he said. Said she didn't want any reminders. I stared at one picture in particular. Me at 5 years old, sitting on Dad's shoulders, both of us grinning from ear to ear. There was so much love in it. So much joy. It didn't make sense. How could something so good be erased so easily? She said you tried to take us away from her, I said finally. He nodded, his jaw tightening. I did file for custody, but not to hurt her. I was worried. After the separation, she wasn't herself. She'd scream at you and Julian, isolate you. She wouldn't let me talk to you. And then she accused me of something horrible, something that could have ruined my life. What? I asked, heart racing. She claimed I hit you, said you had bruises, but there was no evidence. No reports. Nothing. Still, she said if I didn't give up custody and leave town, she'd go public with it. I had just started a new job. I couldn't fight it. My lawyer said it'd be her word against mine, and the courts usually side with the mother. My stomach turned. I didn't want to disappear, he continued. I wrote letters. Dozens. She never let you see them. I even drove by the house once. Just to see you, but she came outside with a bat and threatened to call the cops. I shook my head. I spent my whole life thinking you left me. Thinking I wasn't enough. He looked like he wanted to cry. I'm so sorry, Emily. I never stopped loving you. I thought about you every single day. We sat there, both crying now, surrounded by memories we'd been denied for so long. Then he said something that caught me completely off guard. I remarried a few years ago. I have a daughter. Her name's Zoe. I blinked. I have a sister? Half-sister, technically. She's 7. My mind raced. A whole family I never knew about. A little girl out there who shared my blood. Does she know about me? He nodded. I've told her stories. She calls you my secret big sister. I laughed through my tears. Wow, that's a lot. I want you to meet her. If you're ready. I didn't know if I was. But I said yes anyway. That evening, I met his wife, Claire. She was kind, gentle. Nothing like my mom. She hugged me the second I walked in, and I didn't even flinch. And then I met Zoe. She ran up to me in a princess dress, clutching a toy unicorn. Are you Emily? Yeah, I said, kneeling down. I'm your sister. She beamed. Cool. Wanna play? That was it. No judgment, no past. Just love. We spent the evening playing board games, eating homemade pizza, and telling stories. I felt like I'd stepped into an alternate version of my life, the one I was supposed to have had. That night, as I lay in the guest bedroom, staring at the ceiling, I felt something shift in me. I wasn't broken, I wasn't unworthy. I had just been lied to. And now, I was healing. The next morning, I called Julian. Hey, I said. I found home. 6 months later, everything was different. Not perfect, but different. Healing doesn't happen all at once. It's slow, uneven. Like sunlight gradually filling a room that's been dark for years. Sometimes it stings your eyes. Other times it's warm and beautiful. But you can't go back to the darkness once you've seen the light. After that first weekend at Dad's, I started visiting every other month. Julian came with me once. Seeing Dad with Zoe shattered something in him too. Something he didn't even realize was broken. We both had this hunger to experience what we missed out on, even if it came in fragments. Dad was patient. He never pushed. He never tried to rewrite history. He just showed up, consistently, quietly, the way a real father does. One afternoon, during a walk by the lake behind his house, I asked him, "Do you ever resent her for what she did?" He paused before answering, "I used to a lot, but now, I just feel sorry for her." Imagine being so afraid of losing love that you destroy it before anyone else can take it from you. That hit me hard. Because somewhere deep inside, I knew he was right. Us. Back in our hometown, Julian and I slowly started speaking to Mom again. Not because we forgave her completely. Not because we forgot. But because anger is a heavy thing to carry, and we were tired. The first time we visited together, she cried the moment we walked in. "I don't expect you to understand why I did what I did," she said through tears, "but I never stopped loving you. Even when I was wrong, I loved you the only way I knew how." Julian didn't say much. I could tell he didn't know what to feel. But I looked her in the eyes and said, "Love isn't just about holding on. It's about letting go too. You should have trusted us enough to make our own decisions." She nodded. "I see that now." It wasn't some big TV drama moment. There was no soaring music. Just three broken people in a small kitchen, trying to figure out how to move forward. It was a start. I started therapy a few weeks after that. It was hard, reliving the past, confronting the version of myself shaped by guilt and fear. But it helped. I learned how to stop defining myself by other people's pain. I started painting again. Started journaling. Started smiling more. One day, my therapist asked me, "If you could go back and talk to your 10-year-old self, the girl who thought she was the reason her father disappeared, what would you say?" I thought about it. And then I said, "You didn't break the family, you were just a kid. And the truth? You're going to be okay. You're going to grow up and find your voice again. And when you do, you'll use it to tell the truth." That fall, I wrote a letter. Not to my dad, not to my mom, but to myself. I didn't plan to send it anywhere. I just needed to write it. To get it all out. But then I posted it anonymously on a family trauma support group online. I titled it, "To the Child Who Carried Blame That Was Never Hers." Within days, it had thousands of shares. Dozens of comments poured in. "This is my story too. I thought I was alone. Thank you for saying what I never could." That's when it hit me. I wasn't alone. And I never had been. I was just part of a generation carrying inherited silence, quietly unraveling lies in the hopes of becoming whole. I decided to keep writing. I started a blog, then a podcast. I called it Family Files, a space where people could talk about the truths hidden in their homes, the stories that never got told. The responses were overwhelming. People from all walks of life, all ages, shared their pain, their healing, their courage. And slowly, piece by piece, I was rebuilding the life I had been denied. One evening, during a podcast recording, Julian joined me as a guest. He was nervous at first. But as we talked about our childhood, our mom, our dad, something shifted in him. "I used to think I was protecting myself by staying silent," he said on the recording. "But silence is a cage. Truth is the only thing that sets you free." That episode became our most downloaded one yet. But numbers didn't matter. What mattered was that we were no longer ashamed of our past. Thanksgiving that year was surreal. Julian and I drove up to Dad's house. Claire made turkey. Zoe insisted on decorating the table with hand-drawn placemats. And for the first time in 20 years, I looked around a dinner table and felt something I hadn't felt in a long, long time. Belonging. After dinner, Dad and I stood outside watching the stars. "Thank you," I said. "For what?" he asked. "For not giving up on me. For coming back when you could have stayed away." He looked at me and smiled. "You're my daughter. There was never a version of this life where I didn't love you." And just like that, the final piece inside me clicked into place. The past would always be a part of me. The lies, the pain, the silence. But they wouldn't define me. What defined me now was the truth. And the choice I made to break the cycle. Some families are born in truth. Some are built in healing. Ours was both. We were the kids who grew up inside a lie. But we became the adults who chose to tell the truth, loudly, honestly, and without shame. And that changed everything.